Hi, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing well. Something I'm excited to show you today. Not every bonsai enthusiast will be excited about this particular species. It's of course a sycamore. This tree is very dear to me, as I mentioned in previous videos. It's something my father started when I was younger, and I'd kind of dig up little seedlings from gardening jobs, drag them back, and have them all around the yard. And this is one that he decided to do something with. He's had a pretty tough life for probably being about 25 years old. He got snapped off here when me and my brother were building a little quail aviary kind of thing when we were younger. A piece of material fell over and tragically broke it, and it had kind of a few years kind of lounging around in a pot uncared for. And in the last probably 5 years, I've been trying to really bring it back to life, fix this wound, create a new leader, and start doing something with it, and being an awkward species, there's not much information on these or kind of guidance. It is a maple, you can treat it in the same kind of way, except it's a lot more vigorous growing than most, and the leaf size obviously is a lot bigger. But yeah, I'll just show you a few things we've got going on with it before we do anything to it. So, I had quite a nice naberi down here. Now this was kind of a root over rock thing, and again in the pot it was in. Yeah, so let's see, one too many cold winters, we lost a few of the major roots, you can see around this side, but it's got some nice healing going on, and there's some really nice kind of craggy features down there. It's got the mature bark on it. Like I say, this tree is probably 27 odd years old, maybe more. It's a bit heavy going around here, but there's a lot under the surface as well, and I've been trying to sort of develop some new roots, and maybe we'll try and put this back on some kind of slab of rock or something, because the roots did kind of suit that, and there's a kind of cavity under there, and possibility of doing something with it. And then going back to that break there, obviously this was just snapped off at the top, quite a rough, a natural break as it were, but it didn't heal very well at the time, because there was no kind of foliage or growth around it to kind of pull from it. Being a sycamore, it sent out a few more shoots here and there, and then after a while, obviously managed to straighten one out and kind of continue, with this theme that we had there, without having to put a harsh, unnatural angle in there. I did want to kind of correct this tree and maybe put it back into a kind of broom standard style thing. Now I think this was all being grown on just solely to heal this wound and get it kind of encouraged to go again. This bottom part at one point between this other mark here started looking a bit iffy, and I thought, oh, we're going to end up with a wound here we can't, even with sycamore's vigour, couldn't fix. But now it's evenly pulling all the way around. It's looking quite good. There's a nice surface. I've had to put some filler in that and seal it up, but there's a nice surface there, and it's kind of pulling over. So I give that a few more years, and I think that will be as good as gone. You'll never get rid of these marks, but they're all parts, stories. There's history to this tree. It isn't just a bonsai that I've bought. It's an important tree to me, and a species I want to kind of win against eventually. So we've done that. We've made a new leader. Like I said, this was all left along. This was grown probably 8 foot tall, just to thicken this. This trunk as well wasn't much more than this, probably 5-6 years ago. It was a little bit bigger than that, but not this size here. So in trying to fix this and grow a new leader, we have beefed the trunk up a little bit as well. Yeah, I feel like the growth where I just cut it back, I thought it's getting tall. I've just repotted it. I didn't want to have that swaying around, so I cut it back. We've got these 3 kind of new buds going here. And I'd cut back to where I could see a bud as well, even though it was a sycamore, because this tree is precious to me. I didn't want to just go cutting it down and end up back in a bad situation with it. So I did cut it quite modestly, and I think it's ended up a bit too tall to do anything with, but I have been just styling this and mucking around with it and trying to control it. But I've kind of put it out to you guys if you think that's too tall, or whether as this thickens up and we maybe get a few more buds here, we might be able to keep what we got there. Maybe come back to this in autumn when there's no leaves on it and we'll be able to see the structure properly. But yeah, I think really it should be down here somewhere. And it just so happens there is a bud kind of dormant. This thing tried to wake up a few times and it stopped. But there's a bud there, so if worst case scenario, when this is defoliated in autumn, and I see it for what it is and it doesn't look right, then we could chop it down and start again. Now all this has been grown in 1 year and there's different thicknesses. It's kind of like a little ramification being created, but obviously with sycamores, them branches can thicken up so quickly, they can soon end up way too thick, so it's probably a bit too ambitious to have grown all that in 1 year and think that that would stay. Well, main goal, like I say, was to still carry on healing this, getting this new leader in keep with that, and then you know, waiting for potentially we see a new bud there. So like I say, I'd be quite confident now to cut that back at the end of the year if that didn't look right, or in spring, seal it up and start again. But like I say, I'm quite enjoying wiring, styling this top part, and just clipping it back and seeing how convincing we can get it. And you can see, I think I probably did a little video of this at the start of the year, definitely when it was dormant, but maybe as it broke out and then as the leaves hardened off. And the leaf size originally on this was, honestly, it put like a full-size tree to shame. They were huge, bigger than my hand, and they've come down quite a bit. These are obviously still quite large leaves, but when you look at some of these hardened off ones we've got in there, they're actually quite nice little leaves now. And all I've been doing, I haven't completely defoliated this tree, but I've just been nipping off big leaves as we go, cutting the ends off shoots. You know, when you've got two pairs of leaves on there, or one on this, because I'm really trying to shorten this and slow it down, and just practicing with it. But we might keep it. I just feel it is too tall. You know, when something doesn't look right, normally it's telling you it isn't right. But today we're just going to unwire some of these now before they get, you know, start biting into it. I just want to kind of see how it relaxes and settles down, and we'll cut a few of these bigger leaves off. Right, so it's, like I said, it's getting kind of later on into the year now, so we definitely won't defoliate this tree at all, because I want to still keep healing this and pulling as much as we can. But a few of these bigger, you know, large leaves we'll take away, because it'll give a better impression when we look at it ourselves, just to what it might look like with smaller leaves if we can slowly control it. I just want to clear a view as well of what we're going to be unwiring here. And this is all I've been doing with this every you know, week, going out there, just cutting a few leaves off it, continuously making it sprout out from where I cut it previous. So it's kind of pushing that process along, but not taking so much from it that it's not, you know, pulling water, growing, being happy. Kind of the key to keeping these moving, I think, is having some good foliage on there as well. Especially in that hot weather we've had, it needs to be able to draw water up as well. There seems to be a certain caterpillar that really likes this sycamore as well. I find them, take them off, and still, you know, it's been another one's popped up. Take that one. Take that off, and then that will just hopefully incentivise them little shoots to pop out a bit more. Any of them that are really extending as well, but see how they slowed down now quite a bit on this last flush. You can see how many times I've managed to get this thing to put new shoots out by cutting it back. All this is new this year. This was one little bud here I started straightening up last year to kind of select as a guaranteed lifeline for this tree. Like I say, any other tree I kind of get given or, you know, collect myself, I'm not too worried about cutting it back, and I know they'll normally come back fine. But with a tree like this, when it's kind of sentimental, you don't want to do anything that could risk it. But that's, you know, going with anybody, you don't want to kill any tree, obviously. Right, well, we'll take a bit of wire off it. So we're going to have to unpick probably some of my crazy wiring. I probably added bits later on where other bits should have gone first, but we'll see. None of this is biting in yet, so it's probably been on there for 3 weeks or so. And you see they've held there really well. So we can always add more wire at a later date again. I think I'll take that heavier stuff off first. This heavier stuff probably ended up on it because I've wired down the thinner branches and then suddenly thought that might look better there if I could pull that down. I never really start with you have an overall shape that you're going to aim for, I guess, or a style if you like, but I find the plan always just evolves as you go along. You never really get to, you can't always guarantee a bud or a branch popping up where you want it. Good. It's a shame about their leaf size really, because sycamores are really quite nice trees. They root really well, they push out new roots, they heal really well. It's a bit too vigorous, and the leaf size obviously a pain. I'll take this little thin one out here. Looks quite nice uncluttered actually. It's just the height, like I say. But please give me some feedback in the comment section. So what you think about this and the height of it. And going back to the leaf size, you know, this is 1 year, all this growth that you see here, all these branches, these big branches, everything, it's all 1 year's growth. And it was repotted in spring, you know, and some root pruning was done. So it's probably helped, well, I'd say it helped reduce the leaf size, but the first leaves on this, if you did see them, they were huge. We've gone back a few steps. I think even when I grew it out to the height I grew it the previous years, the leaves weren't that big. They really were, you know, huge leaves. And with minimal cutting back, no more root pruning or anything, they've come down quite a bit. So I think as you slowly slow this tree down, and each branch has more and more endings and splits, you know, more branches coming off of it, and the ramification builds. This, you know, could be quite viable as a larger bonsai. Will never be as small as a field maple or a trident or anything, but we've just got one more piece. Just there. And there we go. So we've got quite a nice mix of different thicknesses of branches already. Some nice bends in them. Kind of aiming to fill a space with a natural kind of, you know, would the branch naturally head there, or could it not sort of just fill the space with anything? Bits like this here we'll have to do something with sooner or later, because there'll be a choice to be made there, whether we wire them apart or we just take that down to one. There is kind of an obvious one to go to there. And yeah, I'll just let these extend a little bit further before I take the ends out of them. Not much though, maybe in a day or so. But yeah, it's really looking quite promising, this one. And you see the cut there from the last 2 or 3 years, major kind of letting this thing grow. Like I said, probably 8 foot with what's here as well. But starting to heal over quite nicely as well. So it'll be a complete opposite from this one that was a pain. As you can see with all this foliage now, I know this is the only stuff above it, but you know, when that's had full big leaves on it, it's just been left pumping there. That's healing that quite well, and then obviously all this is helping anything lower down. And these previous chops here as well, they've all healed well, so it's no, it's really starting to look good. And like I say, the bark here as well, we've got some really good kind of crazing and cracking now, really starting to look quite ancient there. So I'll just show you a few other awkward ones I've got here while we're on this subject. I've showed you this one before in that other little video the other day. This has got a few, this will come off obviously here, but trying to grow this one in a kind of traditional kind of Japanese style looking shape, maybe not like how it would look in the wild, but the roots on this again really nice as well. It's quite an interesting one there. This would probably go over a rock quite well as well. But you see all these previous chops. There's this year's most recent one again. Look at this, the healing on them. They're just really good. You don't have to fiddle around with it, seal it or anything, you know, just cut it clean, really nice clean cut. Cut it back, you know, that one maybe could have been cut back with a knife a little bit further, but I think it will hide in there. It looks quite convincing. But again, you know, a kind of species no one bothers with, but I feel like there's some potential there. You might not want all that work and all that, you know, effort, but I think if you could get these to like this size, the leaves, you know, that's quite a cool cool leaf. Here's another one. This one had a hard time from the repot. I don't know what. It's got a lot of new roots on there. It just hasn't really done a lot. But nice shape again. These have gone a little bit bowled over. Maybe just done them with a secateurs or something. But as the thing fattens up, it should hide it. And maybe a little bit. From one angle, it looked a little bit inverse. But I think as the roots fatten up and buttress this a little bit, that may correct itself. It's not like in the middle of the tree or anything. But yeah, another cool shape, and that's really got some taper on there. So yeah, they're good for creating taper and practicing there. And this one's quite interesting. It was a seedling I found, a bit like the Crimson King, Norway maple, sugar maple, I guess that one is. A Norway maple leaf there, Acer platanoides. And this is another good example of creating taper, you know, on here. So this was a little branch, you know, a year or so ago. And this was the main leader. So you can imagine that was straightened out. I slowly just bent this one over and kind of corrected this one early. So eventually we can just make a chop on this one, not have to worry about making a new leader because it's already there. Fatten this up to wherever we're happy again, and then do the same. The roots are a bit awkward on this because it was a little collected seedling. It kind of had them. Well, this was beyond that. I think it was about this size when I found this actually. And it had already kind of made this fork here. So I've been pruning the roots further down, but we won't correct that unfortunately. So we'll just have to try and encourage some more roots around that level and see where that goes. But cool colour leaf. Got dried out this one, by the way, if you're wondering why it's that horrible. This looked lovely the other day. Shame we didn't do a video then on it, but it got dried out in them extreme heats we've had because it's in quite a small pot. I don't know what it's looking like in there. Well, it's got some good roots. It's not too bad. But that, like I said, that one did dry out. It's even pushing them out there. Look. So it's just set it back a bit, but the buds are all healthy, and this will, you know, it'll probably be it now for this year. It won't do a lot more now, but that'll be something to work on next year. Maybe give this, because I'll slow this down, cut this back somewhere, just for now, or let it get, you know, a little bit. But probably grow that on for another year or so, just to really bulk this up, get it a bigger plot, and work on the roots. And yeah, that could be an interesting tree as well. I'll give you one other update in this video actually, because we've not gone back over these. I haven't done nothing else with them yet. But those were all those baby maples that we dug up. And they were so small, like I say, I wouldn't have dared just put them in compost or that, even with some sand or that, they would have just died, wilted off. They're not that hardy at that stage. They can be well finicky, some of these seedling maples, for the first year or so or five, or even after that, you know, until they've got a bit of a sort of pencil-sized thickness about them. They can die off quite suddenly. But yeah, all grown in sphagnum moss at seedling leaf size. Some of these had barely any roots, like almost cuttings. And you can see they've really come on. We've actually got quite a nice, you know, nice trunks going on there. So we'll do something with them. We'll want to let them get a little bit bigger so we can see what leaves are what, but we've got, that's quite a nice leaf. Obviously it's been bug eaten, so it would be nicer. That's quite nice as well. And if we've got anything that's really looking quite repetitive, which they should, because they come off the same groups of plants, so I'd hope to find some very similar. Nice colours there as well on that one. We'll do a group planting maybe, and then some of these really unusual ones we'll keep separate. Which even that one's quite nice. So they're starting to show. They'd normally take a couple of sets of leaves and the plant to be grown healthy to give it a really good idea. But yeah, just dumped in that sphagnum moss. You can see how easy that was to secure all them. I think we've probably lost one or two. There's so many in there. I said one last thing. I'll show you one last thing here, actually, because someone might be able to help us here. I haven't really put much effort into this yet, obviously. But got a gardening job at the start of the year, and all these little seedlings were popping up in the bed, and there's a lot of them there. This was just one little clump where they're gathered up. They're similar to a maple, maybe a plane of some description, but I don't know what type they are. Seems to be a bit of variation in, the type. They're all from the same tree, so maybe the tree was grafted or something. But yeah, loads of variations, but these were literally, like these acers, a little bit more sturdy than that, so obviously they survived being moved, but they thickened up so much in 1 year. Well, not 1 year, in 4 or 5 months. I've had that for 4 or 5 months. It was probably like that in one set of leaves and the seed leaves. And yeah, some of these have done phenomenally well. And again, that one, And these movements in these, they were just in the tree, so I collected this whole handful of little seedlings, and we've got all these cool shapes. You know, you wouldn't even want to change some of these. So sometimes nature can just provide. These little seedlings haven't, grown straight bolt right up. They're like almost little bonsai starters, and someone's put some effort into these. But yeah, I have no idea what they actually are. So if anyone has a really good idea, what they could be, then yeah, I'd be pretty pleased to know. Look at the bark, like I say as well. Look at all the cool colours and patterns in that. I think these are going to be quite interesting. And going by, like I said, the rate of these had minimal roots. They were seedlings, and they potted up, and they've had some really quite harsh, warm conditions. With a bigger pot next year and a good feed up, sort of undisturbed, I think we can get a fair good amount of bulking happening on the trunk again. Within a year or two, should have some quite reasonable trunks out with some good movement. And we haven't seen a single piece of wire, these haven't. This one here is not done so well, but the shape of it's so cool. I think I was really quite careful when I planted these to give us the best in a berry. A lot of my trees as well just look like sticks. I've always done quite a bit of work in the root. I like making sure the roots are good, Yeah, look at the shape of that one, all by itself. So, not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm sure that will grow into something quite interesting in the end. They're really quite cool though. So yeah, if you do know what they are, then we'll have an idea, and I can maybe just type that in and have a look at them pictures as well. And yeah, pretty interested to hear from you on those. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you've got one of these and you just started out with it, or you wanted to have a go with Sycamore, hopefully maybe it will give you a bit of hope with it, because obviously there's a lot of negativity surrounding these ones. But like I say, this is sentimental to me, so I'll always carry on with it. Could say I wish I picked an oak tree or an elm tree, but I collected it and he decided to bonsai it. Well, thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please hit the like button. It gives us a little bit of feedback. And if you aren't subscribed, if you could subscribe, that would be handy as well, because it will just kind of get the channel moving. That's if you guys are enjoying it. Thank you.